Greetings, good morning, and welcome to Believe TV. My name is Bruce Sampson, and I am your host. Um, Forgive me, folks, this is an unusual time and day to be having this show, but it's also been quite a while since I've actually done one of these. And I want to get back in the swing of things and back to doing it on a fairly regular basis to the extent that I can. Um, Thank you for those of you who are joining and who are watching live. I appreciate your time and appreciate you taking the time to join. Uh, so today's theme is from the heart. And uh, as I suggested in my post, I wanted to talk about arts, youth, unity, and kindness. So let me start by saying that for the last 3 weeks or so, maybe a little longer than that, I have been away from home. And actually, I should start with this by saying this is that anyone who's watching, you're welcome to watch and to participate and to contribute. I welcome that. But a majority of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be um, zoomed in on my hometown community. So just be aware of that. um, Maybe not majority, but a lot of it. So, yeah, for the last several weeks, I have been in Southern California uh, working, producing uh, a project for the Young Americans, writing and directing a show out there, and all of that went well. But when I'm in the midst of a situation like that, I am giving everything I have to it, and most of my energy, right, is focused on that. And so, um, oh, let me back up and say, so if you've never tuned in before, just know that you're welcome to uh, uh, respond, reply, say hello, tell me where you are, and all that good stuff. And hopefully, I'll be able to. Let me see, comment assistant. I'll put that on for now. Um, and even if I don't respond to you right away, I will respond later. So whether you're watching it live or on replay. Anyway, back to uh, producing the shows and stuff. So I'm in this environment, especially when I'm working with the Young Americans in the last several years. Uh, I have kind of taken on or been honored to have a role in uh, in a way helping to restore the group back to its full strength. Um, Once the pandemic hit, everything kind of just disbanded and everyone obviously went home and shut down and all of that stuff. And the group basically had to rebuild from scratch. And so several years ago, I um, got a call and entered into a number of conversations in which I was honored to be asked to come back and be part of that process, and especially the part that deals with outreach. And I'm super passionate about it. Um, as anyone who knows me well understands, that I'm super, super passionate about outreach, not just because it's the arts, but because it's so much more and it impacts people's lives in so many different ways. And so we'll get into that in just a second. Anyway, when I am in that environment and all of my energy is about directing and teaching and producing, and most of that energy is around the young people that I'm working with in trying to impart as much knowledge and information and passion and just as much as I have to offer, I want to pass on. And so I try to think of the best way to say this. So anyway, I immerse myself in that mindset, right? And in working with these young people, one of the things I always promise them is that I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to be there for them. I'm going to be an advocate for them. And so I want to listen and hear what's going on with them, because at the end of the day, I can only be as effective in imparting information to them as they are in a position to be able to receive it, right? So, and I guess what I mean by that is, like you can be like, whether it's church or school or whatever it is, you can be in a room and someone can be talking forever. But if you're not in a position to hear what they have to say, if you're not in a position to truly listen, if you've got other stuff on your mind, then, because other things are, life is happening, regardless of that moment, whether it's work or school or church or whatever it is, life is happening around you. And sometimes you're not in a position to truly hear what is being said, what's being said. So, um, one of the things that I've recognized in my way of working is to have an ongoing dialogue and an open door policy where I'm like, communicate with me, let me know what's going on. I want you to know I'm an advocate for you. Doesn't mean I can always solve all your problems, but I'm here to listen, and I'm here to offer a shoulder and an ear, and when I can, to help you uh, resolve issues so that you can be here and you can get the most out of this situation and out of this relationship, right? As director and artist, right? As teacher and student, because that's the only way it truly works, right? I mean, to its maximum, right? To its potential. So anyway, so when I'm immersed in all of that, or at least I'll just speak for these last several weeks, I end up not, uh, some by choice and some because of just schedule. I end up not watching as much news, listening to as much talk radio as I usually and used to do. I usually back away from some of that. Again, partially because of my schedule, and part of it's intentional because I want to make sure that I'm present and that I'm giving everything I can. And those things can be a distraction. Now, I am a person who I'm going to always be that person. It's like, no, you need to stay informed, because, especially here in the United States, to be part of a democratic republic and uh, to be an active participant and citizen and all that stuff, you have to be informed. You have to be well informed about what's going on in the world. And we live in an age where there's so much information out there, not all of it accurate, not all of it true. And depending on where you sit and what you're listening to and what you're watching, you're getting certain information, right? And you may think I'm very well informed, but are you? Right? And this is one of the things that I talked about this, probably a year or more ago, where I talked about when I taught English composition at a college, and it was during an election season. And one of the reasons I chose a particular exercise for these students and assignment, because I was disturbed at how much they were not informed. or or had the wrong information when it comes to how our system of government works. And so I gave them some resources to go out and, one, find out how the system works and find out where they actually stand. Because a lot of them were trying to were doing things based on, well, mom and dad and grandpa and grandma have always been this particular political party, so that's what I am. Okay, great. But do you know what that is? Do you know what that means? Are you sure you agree with their platforms? And so there was a particular website at that time. I don't remember what it was, but I remember I'd done some research and I found this website that was basically like, if you're a novice and you're new to politics in America and all of that, and you want to see where you more closely align, then you take this little quiz, right? And you answer any number of questions that will, in the end, will help inform you or better inform you as to, well, this is the party that, political party that most resembles your beliefs and your thoughts based on how you've answered this quiz. And so I had all my students take it, and the majority of them were shocked because they all thought they knew exactly what what they believed and what party they were associated with. And once they did that, all of a sudden they realized, oh, wait a second, I belong to this other party. The other thing that they found out was that sometimes the other party that they thought or that they ended up being closer to was not one of the two major parties, the Republican and Democratic Party. It was something else. And so that was a shock to them about, whoa, wait. We thought there were only two. Like, no, there's a whole bunch of parties. It's just that those are the two that are primarily in power. But there's a lot of different political parties out there. And so, and all of that was just to get them in the right mindset of understanding, one, just the humility of understanding, I don't understand it all. And I thought I did. But this is actually how I feel about this. And I actually differ from my parents in this thought. Like we agree on 90% of it, but this 10% over here, nah, I see things a little differently because the world's different than it was for my parents. And so, anyway, moving on. Um, we did this exercise, and then as a result, I then had them write a paper on, well, which candidate do you want for president? And it was supposed to be a persuasive paper. So they were basically supposed to persuade the reader or the class or their teacher, me, to vote for their candidate. But the trick was they couldn't say anything negative about the other candidate. All the information they provided had to be about the worthiness of their candidate. Ooh, right? Now all of us is like, wait a minute. We've become so conditioned that it's a lesser of two evils, and it's this whole idea of, I've got to tell you why that guy's horrible, so therefore you should vote for my guy. I was like, no, take that out of the equation. Just convince me that your guy is the right person. If you truly believe that they're the right person, then convince me that they're the right person. Tell me why. And all of my students were like, that's the hardest assignment we've ever had, because they were so conditioned to automatically just tear apart the other guy, right? I chose one guy, so that guy has to be evil and horrible and everything wrong with them. Instead of just talking about the merits of their own guy. They were having difficulty doing that. Now, how sad is that? That it wasn't about them being so attached to this one particular candidate was so amazing. They, in order to feel that way about their candidate, they had to hate the other guy. And so I was trying to get their thinking a different way of like, no, don't worry about hating. The idea is for us to have the best possible person leading us. If that's the idea, then the whole exercise around selecting one should be based on that outcome. That's what you're supposed to be looking for. So, moving on. Okay, I didn't mean to spend that much time on that, but I wanted to set that up just to understand that that's the kind of background, that's the kind of understanding, that's the kind of um, way that I try to make sure that I'm informed. The other thing about that was about what I imparted to my students was explaining to them that you have all these major news channels and channels that call themselves news channels that people watch, and primarily in prime time, that they get all their information from, and then therefore say, now I'm informed, I know what's going on because the news told me so. Well, if you're like me and you're a journalism student, my degree is in journalism, and so you understand how to report and how to research and all of these things, and you're able to look at the news or any bit of information and to decipher, well, wait a minute, yeah, but you didn't answer the question, or wait a second, that's not what they asked you, or whatever, to to be able to navigate through that whole process. Okay, so um anyway, I think my so folks, if you are commenting right now, I can't see it. So I apologize for that. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure why. It's showing me that people are watching, but I just can't see your comments. So I'm gonna have to do those on the back end, and so I apologize. Okay, so moving forward. Um, so in these last 3 weeks, I have kind of put that stuff on the back burner because I do watch the news, but I tend to be a flipper. So I watch, or at least historically, I would flip between CNN, MSNBC, Fox, what have you. I'm flipping back and forth between. Um, so anyway, I'm flipping back and forth. And hey, Bob, I guess now I can see. How you doing, my friend? We got to talk sometime. And next time I'm in town, we got to get together and do lunch or something. Um, but so I was kind of a flipper because I knew I wasn't. I could pick any one of those channels, and I knew I was only getting some of the information. I wasn't getting everything, and so I wanted to hear what everyone had to say, and everyone's slant, because every one of them had a particular leaning. Now, some of them were better at sticking to the facts for the most part, but all of them had a little bit of a I'm going to go to the left or I'm going to go to the right, kind of leaning. So recognizing that, I said, well, let me just watch it all, because inevitably there were situations where um, bits of information were included on one news channel that I didn't hear on the other. They were focused on all this stuff over here, but they left off this part. And that part was kind of important. So I was glad I got a chance to flip over and hear what they had to say so I could get it all and put it all into perspective for myself. So that's the kind of informed person I try to be. So going back, so these last 3 weeks, put that stuff on the back burner, and I immerse myself in this relationship, in this situation with these young people, and with this mindset of I just want to impart as much positive energy and love, and I want to create an atmosphere for them that's conducive to learning and growing, and that they feel heard and supported and nurtured, and they're able to receive all the information I'm trying to give to them, right? And all the love I'm trying to give to them. And so um, I feel that we were successful in doing that. Anyway, So then that project ends. And now I've got a few days to decompress. So I'm like flipping channels and I'm in the hotel room and I'm I'm looking around, and so I'm starting to catch up on the news and going, oh my goodness, there's some stuff happening. I mean, not that I wasn't aware that some of the stuff was happening, but I wasn't able to dive in as much. So now I'm starting to dive in and just going, man, there's just still so much anger and such a lack of kindness and a lack of just taking a breath and wanting and saying, let me just figure this out. And we've fallen into this trap, and I've talked about this before, but we have fallen into this trap that is benefiting some people. Make no mistake, there is a segment of the population that is deriving benefit from our division. And there are other entities outside this country that are benefiting from our division. And one of the phrases I often use is, we're being played. You're being played and you don't even know it. And because we are strongest and we are most, I'll use this term even though I hate it, but most feared by our enemies um, when we are united, when we are together. And so this idea that we are now, as Americans, calling each other enemies and evil and all these different things, when at the end of the day, if you sat down and just had a civil conversation without all of the speculation and all the prejudging and whatever, and just like took one of those quizzes, you would find out that we're all a lot more alike than we are different, that we want basically the same things. We're just coming at it from a different angle. And so if we can step back and say, oh, that's not evil, it's just a different point of view, then we can then find a rational way to hear one another, Because right now we don't hear one another. We've already made our decisions, right? Again, going back to the whole, if you got an R by your name or you got a D by your name, then that tells me everything. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell. No, it doesn't. Um, so there's that. Now, so that's the kindness unity thing. So kindness, I've been so incredibly blessed to be immersed in situations where I am surrounded by love and unity and kindness and an effort to see the best in humankind, because it's in there if you're willing to look for it, if you're willing to listen. And often we just don't. And it's truly sad. And that's why I said that goes back to the thing about being played. So we're being played against each other. And we're so caught up in that we don't realize that the chess master is going, this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for you. This is what, now we're going to tear them apart. When instead, it's like we wait for these major catastrophes, these major things to bring us together. And the most recent in terms of affecting everyone was the pandemic. And unfortunately, we had voices and energy that were out there saying, it's them, it's they're trying to hurt you. Oh yeah. It's like, no, everyone was just trying to figure it out. There was this new thing happening, and everyone was trying to figure it out, and people were doing their best. But every time they made a misstep or something, we said, okay, like from World Health Organization, if they came and said, oh well, wearing a mask is a good idea, Wear a mask all the time. So that was their first statement. They didn't really say that. But if that were their first statement, and then we found out that in some cases, that's really bad for people to wear masks, right? And so then we were, see, they're trying to take us over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, calm down. They discovered later that, oh, you know what? It's just like the whole thing about, can kids take the vaccine and like all this different stuff, right? So, but instead of immediately jumping to the point of saying, well, it must be an evil intent, maybe it's just people are just doing their best. You know what I mean? Maybe they're just human, you know? And maybe we just need to give people a little grace and go, okay, we get it. You're probably going to get a few things wrong. Kind of with the way the scientific method works. And in everything. I'm not talking about just the mask and the vaccines and whatever. But I have been fortunate, like especially with the whole mask thing. Like I was fortunate in that for years and years prior to the pandemic happening, I had traveled in regions of the world where that was commonplace for people to wear a mask if they were sick, if they felt something coming on, and it was a common courtesy to wear the mask so that you didn't spread germs or you would limit the germs you spread, right? Not that it was going to be any cure all, but it was, hey, this is a courtesy. So rather than me spewing all of my germs out, I can contain some of them by wearing a mask. Not evil, no malice. In fact, just the opposite, right? And so when they said wear a mask, it made perfect sense to me. Okay, sure, yeah, absolutely. In fact, there were certain things that happened as a result of the pandemic that I now look at very differently than I did pre-pandemic. For instance, birthday cakes. I now look back and think about all the times that we watched like these little kids blow out their candles over this whole cake and how many germs they were and stuff that they were like blowing like, oh my God, and I ate that, you know? And that was probably the case in some situations where like I remember situations where you'd hear about a group of kids going to a birthday party and they all got sick. That's probably because one kid, probably the kid whose birthday it was, blew out the candles and like spread germs all over the cake, and everyone had some cake, you know, or any other thing, right? But there are a lot of things I look at differently now, right? I remember my mom very early on. I used to think it was to the point of ridiculous, but now I'm like, oh my God, my mom's totally right on. Um, she was a fanatic about washing hands, fanatic about it. So she would constantly like, if I could have just stepped out of the shower and everything and walked outside and then came back in and she goes, wash your hands. Like, Mom, I just went outside for a second. Did you touch the doorknob? Did you touch anything? Then your hands are dirty. Wash your hands. And I just think, well, how ridiculous. And then I've come to, as I got older, I started to realize, oh, Mom knows what she's talking about. Yes. Yes, that's what I should be doing, washing my hands. Does that mean I will never catch any disease and I will never get sick? No, but it's going to limit those things, right? Okay, so moving on. Oh, I do have some messages here. See, but there's little consideration to humanity. Each entity tries to be an influencer. This struggle has created a very sad society, sad as in depressing. People don't consider consequences when trying to influence. Interesting. And so apropos that you would use the word influencer because that's such a big thing now, especially with today's generation. Everyone wants to be a social media influencer, right? I mean, the very fact that I'm doing what I'm doing right now means that I'm attempting to be an influencer, right? um, but it becomes an intimidation approach. Yeah, yeah. So, and here's the other thing I would challenge you to do, and I think I've said this before. But if you have a particular source for your cable TV news that you watch, try to watch it from a different vantage point of as you watch it, see if you can pay attention and see how often they say something like the people say, this next story is going to make your blood boil. This next story is going to really make you angry. If you don't like blah 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 blah, this is going to upset you. Ask yourself how many, like, watch the show and see how many times that's said. Because if that's said any number of times, that's a manipulation, and that's the goal is they set it up for you. They're telling you, they're already telling you you're going to be angry, right? And if they're doing that all the time, you got to step back and question, like, why are you trying to make me angry so much? I mean, inform me, yes, but why are you always so concerned about making me angry? I don't want to be angry. Like, just inform me and I'll decide for myself. You're telling me ahead of time. You're telling me what I'm going to feel right ahead of time. Watch out for that. Just watch out for that. Whatever channels you're watching, whatever folks you're watching, if they're constantly telling you how you feel, ooh, hold on. Don't tell me how to feel. Just give me the information. I'll decide how I feel about it. Right? That's how it's supposed to be. Okay. Moving on. So one of the things I've said, and again, people who know me, who are close to me, um, Popeye says they feel like if you're angry, they're in charge. Well, they are. They are, because if they can get you feeling a certain way, they just manipulated. They are in charge, right? They're the puppet master, pulling the strings, right? Absolutely. Um, anyway, so um, unity. We are strongest and the most fearful to those who mean us harm when we are united, when we come together. Now, unity and united doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. We don't. We really don't. We just need to recognize the greater good, the bigger picture. And when we can do that, then then we're better off. And I just want to move it. The main thing I wanted to say about unity was one of the things for me a few years back, and I've stated this before, that I wanted, I came to a point where I had an epiphany and I made a decision for myself that I wanted to do more good in this world and have a positive impact on lives and communities before I leave this planet. Don't know how much time I have left. None of us do. But I want to do as much good as I can before I leave. So that's my primary focus. My primary focus. And virtually everything I do, that's my primary focus. So much so that prior to the pandemic, I started some initiatives called Unity in my hometown. So I would have these little meetings and I'd invite people to come in and we talk through things and try to get people that normally wouldn't talk to each other or weren't acquainted with one another to all of a sudden find out when you're in a room and you listen and you have a conversation and you set the table for the atmosphere to be positive and for everyone to be heard, then you have an opportunity to find out the things you have in common. Like, oh yeah, I feel the same way. Yes, I have kids. Oh yes, but right. Instead of immediately looking at someone and going because of the color of their skin, because of the color of their hair, or the D or the R behind their name, that obviously they must be this. No, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You know, what about before political parties existed? Right. Um, anyway, so unity was one of my main things and still remains one of my main things. I get so frustrated when I walk into any situation, and especially if it's a positive, like in my rehearsals. Going to rehearsal, like I come in there with all the best of intentions of like, hey, this is going to be great. We're going to learn and we're going to we're going to put together something that we're then going to take out and share with other young people and communities and make a difference. And I come in with that energy. And then because of what other people are going through in their lives, sometimes, humans being humans, people get into arguments or they get offended at something that another person said or whatever. And I'm like, whoa, 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 you guys, just can we not? What we're here to be in this beautiful space. Let's figure out what's going on, and let's make sure you're heard and that we deal with that. But let's not make enemies of one another. We don't need to do that. And it serves no purpose other than destruction. And we don't want that. So let's come together. And I am amazed at how often basically good people that I know to basically be good people, take the wrong path and head the wrong direction from manipulation or from not being heard. When they're not heard, when they don't have, when they feel like no one is on their side. And then they have that little voice saying, you know what? It's not your fault. It's that other person's fault. They're the cause of all your problems. It's them, whoever them is, it's them. That should immediately give you pause. Should immediately make you stop and go, nah, let's not do that. Let's love, let's be kind. And if you are a person of faith, as I am, in particular a Christian, then the new covenant is all about love. It's all about kindness. And I don't need to know you to be kind. And I can't tell you how many times just in my travels, you see that I am reassured and just uplifted when I see kindness, when I see generosity. And I love when I have the opportunity to bestow that on others. I am partially because I'm an artist, but performance artist anyway, that uh, I have a tendency to look to people watch and in my travels. So I spend a lot of time in airports, right? And I'm around people, and it's interesting just to watch people interact and navigate and whatever. And you can kind of, if you're a person like me who studies human behavior, then you can kind of see, oh, that person is this or that person is that. And that person is needing this. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in situations where I've just been exhausted. I'm just exhausted. And usually when I fly, I just want to sleep. To just be totally honest, I usually just want to sleep. It's either sleep or I want to focus on where I'm headed right now, what I'm about to do. So I may be looking on my phone at notes, or I may be writing notes, or something, or just thinking in my brain, or listening to music and trying to stage stuff in my head, and whatever, right? And I just want to be left alone, to be totally honest, right? And then by chance, I'll sit next to someone or across the aisle from someone who has decided they want to strike up a conversation with me, right? And I'm always kind and polite, and I'll smile and answer the question or say whatever, and then kind of turn back to my thing. And sometimes they'll keep going, and then at some point I realize, put down what you're doing. This person needs to talk for whatever reason. And to be honest, Bruce, you don't need to know why. Just be there for them. They want to talk. They need to be heard right now. All right. I don't need to know why. That's kindness. That's taking a second and saying, you know what? Doesn't have to be about me right now. Just stop. What do you got on your mind? What do you want to talk about? You want my opinion on that? Sure, I'll tell you. And we'll go back and forth and whatever, you know? And in recent trips, I've made a few different uh, acquaintances through that very process. Whereas normally, in the old days, for myself in traveling, I would do everything in my power to make myself as unavailable as possible. Put earbuds in, close my eyes, put something over my head, like anything to say, don't talk to me, leave me alone, right? And some of it's just me just being insecure or whatever, right? Is where some of that came from. But as I've gotten older again, I have reached this point of saying, wait a minute, sometimes it's not about me. Sometimes that person, this may be the difference. This interaction, this human interaction right now with me, with this person, could be the difference maker in their day, their life. Who knows if this is their final, they felt ostracized, they felt whatever, and this is a final chance to reach out. They're like, I'm going to take one more shot at reaching out and just knowing that human beings can actually connect. And if I'm that person that can restore their hope and keep them going for another day, yeah, let's talk. What's on your mind? Sure. I don't know much about that subject, but hey, yeah, go ahead and inform me. You know, whatever it is, right? So, kindness, unity, that's all of that. So, and I talked about arts and youth. So now I want to circle back to uh, Believe, and this is for my hometown. So this summer will mark the 10-year anniversary of the creation of Believe and bringing Believe to my hometown and my home parish. In that time, in the first couple of years, we had, you know, minimum of 120, 100 so people, whatever, up to 200. I think that's the largest that we ever had. And over the years, it kind of dropped down, you know, so it's usually average between 75 to 120, somewhere in that neighborhood for our Believe camps in Bogalusa. Whereas in other locations, it's often higher than that, or at least higher as it relates to that community, the percentage, right? So, um, as we're preparing for year 10, which, to be totally honest, I never expected us to get to this point, because if you've heard me talk about it before, Believe was meant to be a one-time deal, a one-off, and we just kept going to the point where this last year or so we decided we are going to start taking this seriously, and this is going to be a mission statement, and we're going to be purposeful about Believe and about growing it and offering more things and reaching more communities. And so we applied for a 501c3 and became official, and we got our 501c3. So now we are a charitable organization, and those who donate to us can write it off, and we're now able to apply for grants and things that we weren't eligible for before. So we are beginning that process in earnest of moving forward and growing. But one of the things that and I don't mean this in a bad way. I honestly don't. But I honestly have been questioning in the last year or so whether or not Believe has reached the end for my hometown. And the reason I say that is because it, of all the places that we go to, with the exception of one, there was one time when it was one other place that we went to. But for the most part, it is so much easier, so much more smooth, right? Oh, Mr. Flott, you are exactly right. The Lord had bigger plans than what. Yeah, yeah. God looked at my idea for my plans and laughed. So that's funny. um, and I'm grateful, for that. So, um, yeah, because who would have thought when I said I just want to go to my hometown and spend 5 days doing a performing arts camp, bringing all these people from all over the country, and we're going to do something special and just uplift that community and make those young people feel good about themselves and energize them and inspire them and all that stuff, and then go back to our lives. That I would end up in that very first year not only doing it in Bogalusa in Washington Parish, but doing it in St. Tammany Parish and doing it in 3 cities in China. That wasn't on my radar at all. That was all God, right? That was all God. Through circumstances, he just laid it all out. Now I can look back and trace it and see where he acted and how each of those things led to something else. But at the time, nope, not a clue. Um, but anyway, everything that I try to do to set the whole table for this, right, is to bring love, kindness, unity, inspiration, joy to the community. Again, I don't need to politically agree with you. I don't need to religiously agree with you. None of that stuff is important for us to be kind to one another and to get along and to have positive outcomes. None of that is a requirement. And you don't have to agree with every single thing that I say. You don't. The only thing you really have to agree upon is that you're going to be civil and kind and be willing to listen and take in the information and take in the love that we are trying to give through the performing arts, right? The encouragement that we're trying to give through the performing arts and through the method that we've designed. Every year we have a theme, and whatever that theme is each year, it all still has the central thing of helping you to believe in yourself and believe in each other and to be inspirational. Believe has always been about that and still is. But it is amazing to me how many people in my little small community don't participate because they've decided for themselves that it's something else. I I've had virtually every year I have at least one conversation with someone, at least one, but usually multiple interactions with people that in the end will come to me and say, you know, I thought you guys were this, but this is a beautiful thing you're doing. I was wrong. This is a beautiful thing you guys are doing. And it's usually just the weirdest thing because it's usually stuff like, yeah, we thought you were trying to come in here and indoctrinate our kids and try to make them change into this and that. No. What about anything that we've done? Excuse me. Everything we've done has been pretty out in the open and transparent. We're now, do we bring a different energy than is custom for the community? Absolutely. And that's intentional as well. Every single person I picked to be part of our initial team and subsequently um, are picked because, one, they get it. They understand the mission. They understand what we're trying to do. They understand that it's about love of the arts, but it's more than that. It's about doing as much good as we can. It's about making people feel good about each other, about themselves and each other, right? Inspiring, lifting up. It's all about that. And in the end, when the community comes to see what the kids have done all week, for the community to be impacted in the same way. You know what I mean? To walk away feeling, oh, that feels so good, right? You ever been to a movie and you walked out of it and just went, oh my goodness, I just feel so much better about the world. When you come out of it, right, you feel hopeful, right? You ever gone to a church service where you come out and you felt that way, right? Or or a motivational speech or some conference or whatever, you came out and you just felt like, I want to take on the world. I'm ready, right? Like that's what the goal is. That's what the goal is to do for everyone. There are no hidden agendas. It's right out there in the open. If you go to our website, it says right there what we're about. The purpose is to use the performing arts to educate, engage, inspire, and unite youth and communities. There it is. It's not hidden. It's very clear. This is who we are. And as far as all of our leaders, here's our background. And you can see, oh, they've lived a life like that. Oh, okay. Well, great. But instead, people either don't participate and they make up their mind because of other random reasons not to participate and still go around complaining about, boy, this community. Oh, if you know, why they complain about things, or we don't have anything for our kids to do. 10 years. 10 years we've been coming. And if you haven't participated, shame on you. Because if you want to see things get better, it involves participation. It involves your participation. We like to be able to sit on our couch or to write a little check and put in the basket and go, okay, and feel good about, okay, that's going to do some good for somebody. But if you truly want to see difference and you want to see a change, you want to see positivity, you have to be involved. Just show up. Sign up your kids for the program. Sponsor one of your neighbor's kids. And then come to the show and you'll see what we're about. Because once people see the show, they always come out of it going, that was beautiful. That was wonderful. And that's not me patting myself on the back. I'm just saying that this group of people have achieved their goal. We had a goal from the beginning, and it's something positive. Now, some people participate just because it's like, oh, that's cheap babysitting during the summer for a week. That's great. Let me just go drop off my kids at that. And they don't see the bigger picture or the bigger vision. That's okay. Do it for that reason because the end result's still going to be the same. We're not going to treat those children differently. It's all going to be the same. And it's going to be an atmosphere of respect and love and positivity and pushing people to grow and interact in a peaceful manner, right? I'm not saying you have to agree with Johnny, but can you at least listen to what Johnny has to say? Okay, great. I listened to Johnny. I still disagree. Sweet. But Johnny felt heard. So thank you. Thank you for listening. That was kind. So anyway, um, I want to reach out to my community because going back to the whole thing of it being more difficult to do it here than other places. What people don't realize is that the other places we go to, for the most part, they have their own team of people who promote the camps, who do all the logistics around feeding our team and all this other stuff. My hometown is the only place where I have to, in large part, lead that charge. So not only do I have to do the part for Believe and putting all of that together and all the logistics around that, which is by itself a monster, but I then got to go around and talk to people and convince people this is a good thing to participate in. When I remember thinking initially that if I build it, they will come, right? Field of Dreams. If I build it, they will come. I didn't realize I had to build it and keep rebuilding it and then keep going out and picking up people and driving them to it and giving them a free meal and a, you know what I mean? Like I didn't realize I was going to have to do all that. And I want to challenge folks because there are a lot of folks out there in my community that regularly, whenever I see them, they pat me on the back and say, "Great job you're doing with those kids. Oh, keep up the good work. Please keep doing it." And I'd be willing to bet you that at least 50% of the people who do that have never been to Believe, have never actually seen it. They just see the clips and they see the posts and stuff online and go, "That's so great that they're doing that." But they don't come out. They don't show up. And I'm telling you, come show up because it makes a difference to the kids. It also makes a difference in my bottom line of being able to afford to do it. Because at the end of the day, it's an expensive proposition to bring all those people in and to make that week happen. And it involves a lot of people who donate their time, their resources. Um, some donate money, but it takes a lot. It's an expensive proposition to ask all of these professionals to, for a week, for at least a week, stop what you're doing and come here to Bogalusa, Louisiana, and try to make a difference in this community. To come here, and then the people of the community, a lot of the people in the community, just going, "Oh yeah, whatever. Yeah, we got other stuff to do. Yeah, we're gonna go fishing." You got the whole summer. This is 1 week. It's been promoted since we ended the last one last year. So the date's been set, July 3rd through July 8th. It's already been set for months and months and months. Set that time aside and say we're gonna do it this year. We're trying to do it even bigger because it's the 10th anniversary. So we've got some other things, some special things planned that we're trying to make it more of a community event. I always wanted it to be more of a community event, and I want people to be involved. Thanks, big brother. I appreciate it. Appreciate you and the example that you set. Um, but you got to get involved. You got to participate. You want to see change. You can't sit on your couch and go, they better change it. No, you got to show up. Because when you show up, you show the kids that you are supporting them, that you're behind them. Because all the stuff that we're pouring into them through the week, all that love, and you get up there and I encourage you and be bold and get on that stage and take a chance and go for it. You're going to be great. Means nothing if people don't show up and support it. It means nothing. Like, see, people didn't show up. People don't care because that's what they already think. They already think you don't care. So show up. Get the kids to participate and get past this whole thing of like, oh, we'll send the girls, but not the boys. No, send them too. They need it just as much. Everybody's so afraid. Everybody's so afraid. Oh my gosh, clutching the pearls. Oh my goodness. What if my son starts wearing a tutu? Oh, come on. If your son ends up wearing a tutu after a week of Believe, he was probably already wearing it in his closet and you just didn't see it. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that we're doing to change people. That in that way, like, or any political way or any religious way. It's not that. What we're saying is you don't have to be so sensitive. Like one of the things we do encourage is listen to other people. It's okay. And when they're done talking, you can still say, yeah, I disagree. And we're good. We don't have to fight about it. I don't have to consider you my enemy. I don't think you're evil because we disagree. It used to be one of the virtues, you know? But now, it's so funny. I hear the very people that I hear talking about, oh, those snowflakes on the other side, are the very ones who freak out over every little thing. I'm like, wait a minute, who's a snowflake? It seems like you are, because every little thing is like, oh my gosh. Calm down. Let the kids participate. Let them learn. Let them be exposed to something different. Doesn't mean they have to change their life goals or anything, but it still benefits them in the same way that kids participate in sports. They may not go to the NFL or the NBA or play Major League Baseball, but there's still valuable lessons to be learned. There's still enjoyment to be derived from participation in it, right? If the whole criteria was you have to be of a certain skill set that could possibly make it to the NBA to participate in playing basketball, well, that's stupid. That makes no sense. The same thing with the performing arts. And don't you decide, oh, my kid can't sing, my kid can't dance, my kid can't act. How do you know? How do you know? I travel the world and I hear constantly from people saying, I was so shocked. Had no idea that kid could do that. Exactly the point. They didn't either until they were given an opportunity. Do you know how often kids don't try things or don't stick their necks out to explore something because the people around them are telling them they can't? The people around them are saying, we don't believe in you. Not in that. Or they just don't like that particular thing, so they don't want you to be involved in it. But what if it means something to them? So, anyway, I've gone over my time. Didn't mean to. Thank you for sharing this time with me. And all I want to say is, for my hometown, Believe is coming. Time to sign up. Time to come get involved. We're trying to do something that's going to kick off an even bigger movement in the community. But you got to get involved. You got to come be a part of it. This is something special, July 3rd through the 8th. Come on. BelieveCamp.com. It's right there on the bottom scroll. BelieveCamp.com. Go there, check it out, sign the kids up. Right now, of all the places we're going, Bogalusa has the smallest number of registrations, and that's a shame. It's a shame. Now, I do get it that we had to get through Mardi Gras. We had to get through, like, those are all priorities. I get it. And now it's spring break and everything. But start signing the kids up now. Sign them up. I always make sure that there is plenty of security, safety, chaperones. Hey, come be involved in that. Come be a part of it. Don't just sit back and say, oh, I bet that they don't have. No, don't bet. Come see. One of the things that we do with our camp now, we don't let you follow the kids around from class to class. We don't really allow that in most cases, except in unique situations. But because our main place is the auditorium, that's where everyone checks in and checks out from. So because that's such a large space, we do allow parents to come in and watch what happens in that room. So they get to see the beginning. So when they check the kids in, you don't have to leave right away. If you don't have to go to work and you're free, come on in and sit down and see what we do. Come and see how we work. And at the end of the day, when you're picking up the kids, come in a few minutes early, come take a seat, because we always review. And you get to see, this is what my kids did today. They learned this today. Oh, wow, that's incredible. Come and check it out. Come and see what we're doing. Because Believe is growing. And more communities are asking for it. And yeah, in order for it to continue being here, folks got to show up. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Came up with this to help my community, but I can only help if the community participates. And there we have it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next time. Bye.